Intermodal dispersion, it results from the propagation delay differences between the modes within a multi-mode fiber. So as we know the difference between intramodal and intermodal, intermodal difference dispersion is because of the propagation delay differences between modes in a multi-mode fiber. So this intermodal dispersion is occurring because of the delay differences between two different modes or multiple modes. So whereas in intramodal dispersion, it is because of only one mode. So that difference one has to register. So as the different modes are going to contribute a pulse, let us consider a digital pulse. The digital pulse is contributed by, or it is constituted of multiple modes or different modes. And if the digital pulse is traveling in a multi-mode fiber along the channel, and these modes are not going to travel at the same velocity. Instead, they are going to travel with a different group velocities. And because these modes are not traveling at the same velocity, instead at different velocity, the pulse width at the output, it is the width of the pulse is dependent upon the transmission times of the slowest and fastest modes. So as I was mentioning, there are multiple modes which can travel in a multi-mode fiber, and these multiple modes are not traveling with the same velocity. Instead, they are going to travel with different velocity. So different modes will follow different group velocities, so which results in pulse width variation at the output of the fiber, and it all depends on the slowest modes and the fastest modes. So some modes will travel faster in the core cladding interface, and some modes will travel at the slower speed. So the the pulse width at the output, which is a broadened pulse, definitely it will be a broadened pulse, and the width of that will be decided by the transmission times of the slowest and fastest modes. And this dispersion mechanism will create the fundamental difference in the overall dispersion for all the different types of fibers, because intramodal dispersion, it can occur for single mode multi-mode fibers, but whereas intermodal dispersion, that is the one which we are discussing now, it can occur only in multi-mode fibers, because only in multi-mode fibers we can find multiple modes. Okay, so we will this multimode step, if you consider step index and graded index, the multimode step index fiber will exhibit the greatest amount of pulse broadening or intermodal dispersion, because of its refractive index profile. However, the intermodal dispersion in a multimode graded index fiber or multimode fiber can be reduced if you go for adopting an optimum refractive index profile, such as a parabolic refractive index profile or a near parabolic refractive index profile, what we see in the graded index fiber. So this multimode step index fiber is going to offer more amount of pulse broadening that can be uh, reduced to an extent if you can adapt for near parabolic refractive index profile, that is what we use in the graded index fiber. So hence the overall pulse broadening in multimode graded index fiber is far less when it compared to step index fiber. So as I was mentioning, there is no intermodal dispersion for step index fibers. So now let us take a model wherein which a meridional ray is being considered. A ray theory approach is being used in order to derive the expression for the amount of pulse broadening due to intermodal dispersion. So the same way as we did for intramodal dispersion, as we derived sigma suffix m, which is the amount of pulse broadening in a fiber due to intramodal dispersion, that is specifically material dispersion, right? The same way we are going to derive the expression for the amount of pulse broadening due to intermodal dispersion. So we represent it as sigma suffix s. All right. So let us consider a multimode step index fiber with the ray theory model. You can see we have a core of refractive index n1, cladding of refractive index n2, the same model of what we took it for deriving the numerical aperture, right? So here we are going to consider two different rays. One is an axial ray. The axial ray will actually travel on top of the core axis. Okay, the first ray which we are considering is an axial ray which is traveling across the core axis. That is the first ray. The second ray which we consider is the extreme meridional ray, which will cover more distance in order to propagate inside the optical fiber. So uh, this will be our extreme meridional ray, and the one which is on top of the core axis is the axial ray. So we are considering two different rays, axial ray and extreme meridional ray, and we are supposed to estimate the delay differences between this axial ray and extreme meridional ray. So that is how we start the derivation. So you can see here, as both rays are traveling with the same velocity, the reason is we are considering here a multimode step index fiber. So in a multimode step index fiber, uh, the refractive index of the core is constant. Throughout the core, it will be refractive index of n1. It is a constant. So because it offers a constant refractive index, any light ray, whether it is an axial ray or a meridional ray, extreme meridional ray, both the light rays have the same velocity to travel inside the fiber, but the distance covered by them will be different. So both rays travel with the same velocity within the constant refractive index of the core, and the delay difference is directly related now with respect to the path length within the fiber. The path length, mean to say the path traced by the axial ray is this on the core axis, it's a straight line, whereas the path traced by the extreme meridional ray is in the form of a triangular shape. So it is getting total internally reflected at the core cladding interfaces. So the path traced by extreme meridional ray will be large compared to that of an axial ray, which takes the straight path. Right. So we'll go with a simple expression, that is time is equal to distance divided by velocity. Okay. So how do we state it? The time taken for an axial ray. So we'll be taking the axial ray first. We will calculate what is the minimum time or the time taken by an axial ray to propagate or travel inside the fiber of say length L, capital L. So because axial ray takes a straight path, we take this time as a time minimum delay time, uh, which is represented as T sub x minimum, which is equal to distance by velocity. So what is the distance in which the axial ray travels? It is the length of the fiber which we have considered, that is capital L, and the velocity in which the fiber, axial ray is traveling inside the fiber is, it is not a free space, it is inside the fiber, so the velocity will be less than the velocity of the light in free space. So by what amount it will be less than that in this free space? It is c divided by n1. C is the velocity of light in air, whereas n1 is the velocity of light, the refractive index of the core. So the amount in which the velocity is restricted inside the core is 1 by n1. Okay. So velocity of a axial ray inside the fiber is c by n1. So this is a straightforward equation which we have used, c by n1. So L is the distance, velocity is c by n1. So we can rearrange the term. So L into n1 by c, right? So this is the minimum time delay because we took the axial ray. Axial ray will take less time compared to extreme meridional ray. All right. Now let us take the same procedure for arriving at the time taken for an extreme meridional ray, because it takes more distance. It covers more distance, or the path length of the extreme meridional ray is more. You can see from here. Uh, if you take from here to here as length L, if you consider from here to here as length L, that means to say the length of the fiber. So you can see the length in which the path length in which the axial ray is traveling, is same as the length what we consider, because it is a straight line. Axial ray, it travels in a straight line, whereas the path length in which the extreme meridional ray is tracing is, so this is the path length in which the extreme meridional ray is tracing, and obviously the length will be greater than that of the axial ray. All right. we are going to consider a right angle triangle here. We are going to consider a right angle triangle which has an extreme meridional ray which is present in that, right? So this is a right angle triangle in which the extreme meridional rays are propagating inside the fiber. So we will make use of that right angle triangle in order to proceed with the derivation. The same expression what we took for axial ray, we're going to take the same expression for the delay time, because it is maximum time compared to that of axial ray. So we will represent it as T max, and the expression is same, distance divided by velocity. So what is the distance? So let just concentrate here. So we have taken the right angle triangle with an angle theta. So that is what we did here. So this is the theta angle, and phi c is the critical angle of incidence, and this is 90 degrees. So from the triangle, what is cos theta? It is adjacent divided by hypotenuse. What is that adjacent? Adjacent is this length, and hypotenuse is this diagonal line. Okay. So adjacent is the length of the fiber, hypotenuse is the distance. So L by distance, or in terms of distance, it is distance is equal to L by cos theta. So that is how we took the distance. L by cos theta is the distance for an extreme meridional ray, and at the time, I mean the velocity in which the extreme meridional ray is same as that in which the axial ray will also travel. So it is retained as C by N1 as it is. So now you rearrange the term, so you'll be getting Ln1 by C into cos theta. Applying Snell's law, what is cos theta? It is 90 because theta is 90 minus phi c, so cos of 90 minus phi c will be sine phi c. But as we know from the Snell's law expression, sine phi c is equal to n2 by n1. Okay, so we are going to replace directly for cos theta as n2 by n1 because of these relationships, right? N2 is the refractive index of cladding, right? So T max becomes L divided by cos theta is replaced as N2 by N1, and denominator is C by N1. So rearrange the terms, you will be getting L N1 square by C N2. So now the delay difference between an extreme meridional ray with that of an axial ray is represented as delta Ts. Delta Ts is T max minus T minimum. So just reproduce those expressions of what we derived for T max and T minimum. Ln1 square by Cn2 minus Ln1 by C. Subtract those two, so you will be end up in getting some term called as Ln1 square by Cn2 into n1 minus n2 by n1. But as we discussed in the first module, we have an expression for relative refractive index difference, that is delta, which is n1 minus n2 by n1, and sometimes delta can also be represented as n1 minus n2 by n2 because it is very small quantity. So we can have either delta as n1 minus n2 by n1 or n1 minus n2 by n2. So for time being, we will consider n1 minus n2 by n1 as delta. So replace that with delta. So you'll be getting ln1 square delta by c into, right? So as I was telling, since delta is very small, we can also approximate delta as n1 minus n2 by n2. So in that case, you just rearrange the terms again here. L n1, n1 gets cancelled here. So L by L n1 by C into n1 minus n2 by n2. So just rearrange the term. That's the thing which we have done here. So after you rearrange, this can be called as delta. So Ln1 delta by C. So this is what we call it as the delay difference, delta Ts. Delta Ts is Ln1 by n1 delta by C. How do we relate in terms of numerical aperture? Because we know the relationship between delta and Na. So you can see Na is equal to n1 root 2 delta. Na is n1 root 2 delta from the first module. That's the expression. Or how do we arrive in terms of delta? Delta is Na square divided by 2n1 square. So replace delta as Na square divided by 2n1 square. Okay, so some n1 terms will get cancelled. So finally we will be end up in getting the expression for delay difference delta ts. Please remember, delta ts is the delay difference. It is not the amount of pulse broadening due to intermodal dispersion. So we need to extend the derivation further in order to arrive at sigma s, that is the intermodal dispersion parameter, right? So now delta ts is l na square by 2 n1c. So this is the important expression which we have arrived at. Now let us proceed with the derivation, keeping this delay difference as the starting point of our further derivation, right? So now let us consider the perfect step index fiber, and that means to say a multimode step index fiber. The RMS pulse broadening resulting from intermodal dispersion mechanism uh, in a fiber is being considered now, and the output, the optical input to the fiber is a pulse. So we are going to consider a digital pulse. That digital pulse is our optical input that we have applied into the fiber. And the how do we define that pulse? So you can see a pulse is being defined here with respect to time and amplitude. So we have considered a digital pulse of unit area. So unit area will have area width into length equal to 1. So this is what the representation for a unit pulse or a pulse of unit area. Minus infinity to infinity, pi of t dt is equal to 1. 1 is because if you take the length is delta ts, width is 1 by delta ts. So if you multiply both, 1 by delta ts into delta ts will give us 1. So that is the expression for pulse of unit area, right? And the pulse, you can see the range in which pulse pi of t is varying, minus delta ts by 2 to delta ts by 2. Okay. Now the RMS pulse broadening at the fiber output. This is the digital pulse that we are applying at the input of the optical fiber, and because it is undergoing intermodal dispersion at the output of the fiber, there must be some pulse broadening due to intermodal dispersion. So now what is that amount of pulse broadening due to intermodal dispersion is what we have to estimate. So the RMS pulse broadening at the fiber output due to intermodal dispersion for a multimode step index fiber, as I was mentioning, it is represented as sigma s, sigma sub x s, and it may be given in terms of the variance of sigma sub x s. So I think you know the concept of what is a mean, what is a variance, right? So sigma sub x s is the sigma sub x s square is the variance of sigma s. So variance is given by this expression. Sigma sub x s square is m2 minus m1 square. So some of the terminologies you have to remember, because we are directly using here what is m2 and m1. M1 is the first temporal movement, or it is nothing but the mean value of the pulse. So I think you know the difference between, or the relation between, what is the mean and what is the variance, right? So variance is sigma s of x s square, and we have two mean terms here, m1 and m2, right? M1 is called as the first temporal moment, or it is the mean value of the pulse. M2 is the mean square value of the pulse. And the expressions for M1 and M2 are given here. M1 is minus infinity to infinity t into pi of t dt, whereas M2 is mean square value. Mean square value is given as minus infinity to infinity integral t square pi of t dt, right? And here we have stated as mean value of the pulse is given as 0. It gets equated to 0. I can just concentrate on the derivation it's done on the right hand side. You just apply the limits of integration with respect to that unit pulse, and the limit of the pulse is minus delta ts by 2 to plus delta ts by 2, and t is the term which we have taken as the expression. In the expression, pi of t is 1. Pi of t, it ranges from minus delta ts by 2 to delta ts by 2. What is the amplitude of the pulse? Pi will define the amplitude of the pulse, and amplitude of the pulse is 1 by delta ts. All right. So substitute pi of t dt as 1 by pi of t as 1 by delta ts into dt. You just do the integration, you will end up in getting as 0. So m1 becomes 0. So we're concentrating only on m2 now, because sigma s square was m2 minus m1 square, because m1 got eliminated because it is 0. So sigma suffix s square, that is the variance of the pulse broadening due to intermodal dispersion, is only related to the mean square value of the pulse m2. So take the expression for m2. It is minus infinity to infinity t square pi of t dt. So substitute for the limits again, minus delta ts by 2 plus delta ts by 2. Pi of t d pi of t is 1 by delta ts, that is the amplitude. T square is retained as it is. So do the integration. So at the end of the integration, applying the limits of the integration, you'll end up in getting sigma suffix s square as 1 by 3 delta ts divided by 2 whole square. So now as we derived the delay difference, that is delta ts previously, as we obtained the expression as ln1 delta by c. Okay, substitute that expression of delta ts here. Sigma suffix s will be approximately square root of 1 by 3 into delta ts by 2 whole square. I mean, we have rearranged the term. Substitute delta ts here. Substitute the delta ts value as ln1 delta by c here, and do some rearrangement, so that we will end up in getting 1 by 2 root 3 into ln1 delta divided by c. Or if you want in terms of the numerical aperture, replace delta as na square by 2 n1 square, so that we will be end up in getting lna square divided by 4 root 3 n1c. So delta ts is nothing but the amount of pulse broadening due to intermodal dispersion in a multimode fiber, step index fiber, which we have arrived at the expression as ln1 delta by 2 root 3c, or in terms of numerical aperture as lna square divided by 4 root 3 n1c. So this is the end of the derivation, and it's an important expression. One has to concentrate here, because we are going to use the expression for sigma s as well as a delta ts, that is the delay difference, in order to do some problematic in order to solve some problems. So we'll take a problem on multimode step index fiber, which has a numerical aperture of 0.3, and the core refractive index n1 1.45. Material dispersion parameter is given as 250 picoseconds per nanometer per kilometer, that is capital M. Material dispersion is related to intramodal dispersion. Uh, that is the value 250 picoseconds per nanometer per kilometer, which makes a material dispersion as a dominating intramodal dispersion mechanism. Next, estimate the total RMS pulse broadening per kilometer when the fiber used with an LED source of RMS spectral width of 50 nanometer. That is the first thing which we need to estimate. Second one is the core bandwidth length product for the fiber. All right. So here it is asked to estimate the total RMS pulse broadening per kilometer. That means to say it is a summation of material dispersion or intramodal dispersion plus intermodal dispersion, both together. Okay, so total RMS pulse broadening is because of intramodal and intermodal. So let me first calculate the intramodal dispersion, RMS pulse broadening due to intermodal dispersion, that is sigma suffix m. Then we have to calculate sigma suffix s. Then we have to combine both, which will give us total RMS pulse broadening, right? So these are the terms which they have mentioned in the problem. Na is 0.3, n1 is 1.45, capital M 250 picoseconds per nanometer per kilometer, and LED source is one which we have considered, which is having a spectral width of sigma lambda equal to 50 nanometer, right? So what is the expression for the material dispersion? Sigma suffix m equal to sigma lambda into L into m. Sigma lambda is the spectral width of the source, length of the fiber, capital M is the material dispersion parameter. So sigma is 50. I told in the last problem, what we discussed in the last class of problem on material dispersion. The units are already mentioned as a standard unit of material dispersion, picoseconds per nanometer per kilometer. So you need to rearrange some terms, right? 50, I'm taking sigma lambda as 50 nanometer, length of the fiber is 1 kilometer, and the material dispersion parameter is 250 picoseconds per nanometer per kilometer, right? So 50 nanometer and per nanometer get cancelled, length of the fiber 1 kilometer and per kilometer both will get cancelled. So we'll end up in getting only what? Okay, so 50 is sigma lambda, 1 is the length of the fiber, it's already in kilometers, so you've taken it as 1. M is 250 picoseconds uh, per nanometer per kilometer. So length of the fiber is 1 kilometer, 50 nanometer, and this nanometer will get cancelled, and per kilometer is retained as it is. Okay. Sigma m, if you just multiply 50 with 250, it will end up in getting 12500 picoseconds per nanometer, sorry, kilometer. Or you can rearrange it as 12.5 nanoseconds per kilometer. So this is the expression, I mean, the value for RMS pulse broadening due to intramodal dispersion, specifically material dispersion, right? The same way we need to estimate sigmas of x's, and since the value of numerical aperture is given here, not the value of delta, that is relative refractive index difference, so we can use this expression for sigma s. L Na square by 4 root 3 N1C. Na is 0.3, N1 is 1.45. L is the length of the fiber. You can convert it into meters here. So L is 1 kilometer, which is equal to 10 power 3 meters. This is the point where one has to concentrate, because here we are converting into meter, right? Because C is meters per second. Value of C, or the unit of C, that is velocity of light in air, is meters per second in the denominator. So numerator we have length in kilometer, so convert it into meter, right? N1 and numerical aperture doesn't have any units, so substitute L as 10 power 3 meters, numerical aperture 0.3, refractive index 1.45, C is 3 into 10 power 8 meters per second, and later we can convert back into kilometer, right? So this is what we will be getting, 2.9 something into 10 power minus 3. Do some rearrangements, all these things I think you can do. So we have got in terms of seconds per meter converted into kilometer, right? So 29.86 nanoseconds per kilometer. So retain the standard unit for pulse broadening as nanoseconds per kilometer, because even sigma m we have represented in terms of nanosecond. So both should be having equal units or same units. Sigma m is 12.5 nanoseconds per kilometer. Sigma s, what we obtained, is 28.9 29.8 nanoseconds per kilometer. So as I was mentioning, the total RMS pulse broadening due to both intramodal and intermodal dispersion is given not just by summation, it is the square root of the square root of the squares of material dispersion and intermodal dispersion. So tau or sigmas of xt is square root of sigma m square plus sigma s square. So substitute sigma m and sigma s, so you'll end up in getting 32.56 nanoseconds per kilometer after doing the calculation. So this will be our total RMS pulse broadening due to intermodal as well as intramodal dispersion, right? Next term which we have to estimate is bandwidth length product, and which is given by the expression 0.2 by sigma t. 0.2 by sigma was the expression, but here we, since we have obtained sigma t, total pulse broadening, so replace that sigma as sigma suffix t. So 0.2 divided by sigma suffix t. Sigma suffix t is 32.56 nanoseconds per kilometer. Just substitute that. You will be end up in getting 6.14 10 power 6. That you can rearrange it as 6.14 10 power 6 is megahertz kilometer. So the unit of bandwidth length product is megahertz kilometer. All right. So this will be the bandwidth length product.